It's the sign that the season is just around the corner. Charlotte Hornets Media Day. It happened today. What did Steve Clifford have to say about his new roster? Will PJ Washington have a new role? We'll discuss it all today on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
We're Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It is a big day in Charlotte Hornets land. It's a big day for Locked On Hornets with a bunch of different things going on. First off, we are back to being a daily show. Now, we are going to be here every weekday. Doug is playing a road game. He's at the beach doing the vacation thing. So this is the week that they decide to do the family vacay, but that's all right. He's got a baby. You can't plan this stuff.
Hey, this is not. This was on the. I've had this on the calendar for years. Just because Locked On decided to go back to every day for the NBA is not my problem. I'm here now. That's what's important. Let's focus on that.
Yeah, so Doug's playing a road game, but he is playing. That is the point. He is not out. He's not on the bench. He is actively playing on the court with us. I just came back from Media Day. I was hosting with WFNZ from 10 to 2 p.m., 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., so that was awesome. Hosting at the scores table. Doug, I almost sat where Big Pat did. I was basically just a chair to the right, but I didn't feel like I was worthy of it, so I didn't try to steal that chair.
Listen, you gotta dispense with that. In fact, I think you gotta start throwing your weight around, my friend. I mean, you got some pictures of you in the Spectrum Center. You're big time in it right now. You're big time in it. You need to be big patting it. You need to soak up those vibes, man. I mean, I would have been like, I would like that chair. In fact, no one sit within 5 feet of me because my hot take. This is why I don't go on the radio though, because I'm too dangerous for the radio. They don't want me there.
No, yeah, I'm about to say you're way too dangerous. It's probably not very becoming of me if I tell everybody to sit 5 feet away from me and I'm the only one that gets the big fat chair, especially as we're trying to figure out what the hell's going to go on with WFNZ. Awesome nonetheless, though, to sit there on the court while players are getting their photos taken, doing the whole photo shoot thing. And I'll allow that to lead us into just basically the story that came in before Media Day quotes started rolling out there. Hornets signed LaMelo Ball to a non-guaranteed deal, and LaMelo was in the building, actually taking a picture with LaMelo. Those guys posing with one another, and this was after, I think, LaMelo did his individual photo shoot. LiAngelo, I believe, wearing 18. That was the jersey he had on earlier today. So there you go. I know some people were asking because in that picture I tweeted out, he had his arms crossed. You couldn't see it. So LiAngelo, a part of this team, Doug. To be fair, a lot of other guys that were on the E10 contracts, training camp invites, they were here too. And so when I tweeted that photo out of LaMelo and LiAngelo taking a photo together, it was kind of, I guess, seen as, oh, wait, he really actually might make the active roster. And I guess that's true. I just don't know if that photo was evidence of it. It's just he's going back to training camp. He's going to be playing alongside some other training camp invites, his brother, and the Hornets are giving him another shot on a non-guaranteed deal, which allows them to move on if they want to. Still, though, LiAngelo, baby, Ball brothers back in the fold.
Well, it's another opportunity, Walker, and it's a different opportunity, right? He's got a new coach that could maybe help him or at least see something in LiAngelo that maybe James Borrego didn't. To say that there's not any shot of LiAngelo Ball becoming the 13th, 14th, or 15th man on this roster, I think would be silly. I mean, he's got an inside track because, you remember, Walker, that they kept a lot of the player development coaches that have probably worked closer with LiAngelo than some of the newer coaches that have come in. So they've seen LiAngelo a lot more. They're comfortable with what he can do and what he can't do. But who knows, man? Training camp, it's all about having an opportunity, a chip in a chair. So, yeah, it was fun to see LiAngelo there, and I think he'll have an opportunity to make this roster.
Yeah, we've got a lot to get to over the next week. That's what happens with Media Day. Everybody has something interesting to say, and even if you don't, we still talk about it. So as the week goes on, we'll try to comb through all of the details. Let's get to some of the major storylines, though. Okay, so LiAngelo Ball signs with the Hornets, non-guaranteed deal. We've got that. I think the next big one is center watch, Doug.
Yeah.
I did not expect Nick Richards to, be like one of the top 3 storylines coming from Media Day, Steve Clifford availability, but he kind of is. Rod Boone, when I attended the coaches' luncheon on Friday, Rod Boone asked Steve Clifford the question, hey, who is the guy that's really shown up and made an impression on you? He said Nick Richards. He's gotten a lot better. He said something like that again today with a lot more, media there during media day. Nick Richards, backup center right now as Mason Plumlee starts. Steve Clifford giving Richards that vote of confidence, and Mark Williams, the first-round draft pick. Granted, rookie, hadn't even played an NBA game yet, but still, it's Mason, Nick, and not hearing a whole lot about Mark, man. What do you make of this center talk?
Well, Clifford doesn't say things just off the cuff. He thinks a lot about what he's going to say, and he's careful about what he says and what he doesn't say. And he hasn't really given us any indication as to playing groups or, he says all of that's going to develop right throughout this week and the next couple of weeks. But he did go out and say that, if the season were to start today, it's Mason Plumlee and Nick Richards. So you have to ask yourself, why would he do that? And maybe he is super ultra hyping up Nick Richards and he loves it and he's hitching his wagon to this Nick Richards development project. I personally have been watching Nick Richards for a few seasons now. I haven't seen that. Now, could something have changed? Possibly. I'm open. I'm keeping all of my options open here for players to change the game up now that there's a new coaching regime in-house. But I think what's more likely, Walker, is that this is a case of a rookie, Mark Williams, coming in and having, from the perspective of the coaching staff, having to earn his spot in the rotation. Remember, Mark Williams was drafted number 15, not number 1. There's no guarantee about playing time when you're drafted number 15. You got to come in and earn it. There was a big word that was floating around the center battle and really the whole media day in terms of Clifford, and that's physicality. And so I think this was a challenge to Mark Williams. Come into training camp, get ready, and be available and be physical, and you can earn a spot.
Yeah, I don't expect Mark Williams, at least right now, unless he makes a big change, to break the rotation at the beginning part of the season. Because I asked Steve Clifford on FNZ earlier today, what do you think of Mark Williams in the immediate, and what do you think of Mark Williams in the future? Of course, Steve Clifford talks about the future first, says, I think he has excellent potential. I think he's going to be a really good player. But when talking about him immediately, he shifted gears to Mason is going to start. Nick Richards is going to be that backup because of how much he's impressed. Doug, at the luncheon, one thing I was worried a little about with Steve, and most of the time he was saying, really, really nice things, that the offense isn't going to change too much. You want to keep this as a running team. We're going to fine-tune this. He actually gave us specifics on how he wants to change the offense too, like how they actually weren't great in transition after misses. They were really good. So, it's not just the whole blanket, we'll change a little bit, but we're going to keep stuff largely the same. No, he had specifics. One of the things that worries me about what Steve Clifford has told us is he called Kelly Oubre one of their better defenders, and he was downright awful last year. But I was actually soothed a little more by Kelly Oubre's comments today when Kelly said he talked with Coach Clifford and that Steve said Kelly was actually a pest back in the day defensively, not last year. And then Kelly admitted to having that have fallen off last season, that he did not play with the same defensive maybe intensity, or it just wasn't the same type of impact there
awareness
for Kelly.
For sure. The awareness wasn't there for Kelly last season. Yeah.
Right. And so that made me feel a little better. I'm hoping Steve wasn't saying last year Kelly was amazing. And, I have my problems with it even before. But you also have this Nick Richards player evaluation stuff. And, it's all right. It's not that's not what we've seen so far. Maybe some people have seen some Nick Richards potential, and I guess it's there, but it's, not exactly what we would have gone with.
Well, the key word there is seen. And I don't know for sure if Mark Williams was as available at the Hornets training facilities as some of these other players were, but there seems to be a general sense that a lot of players were in Charlotte. And I haven't seen any pictures of Mark Williams from the Hornets, account, where they've been tweeting some of these photos of different players. I have seen Bryce McGowan's. I have seen Nick Richards. And so, again, without knowing definitively that Mark Williams hasn't been around, but that could be an issue here, that Nick Richards has been available. We know that for sure, and that Steve Clifford has seen a lot of Nick Richards. And so maybe this is a case of, hey, look, Mark, if you want to go train with your own people, that's fine. But now you come into training camp, you got to show me. And I was watching the clip of of Rod Boone sort of relaying this information to Mark Williams. And I could kind of see on Mark Williams' face, he's like, all right, I get it, and I'm going to show you in training camp. And now the onus is on Mark Williams. And I think, what you're scared about with Clifford is that it feels like he always does this to rookies. He always challenges them in that way. And some people can respond well to that, and some people don't respond. They like to have that respect of like, you've seen what I can do in college. Give me the playing time, give me the chance, and I'll show you there. And so, but I think Mark Williams is the kind of player that will respond. And we've seen Steve Clifford heap praise on Mark Williams and his work ethic. And to me, this is just a little bit of rookie training camp goading.
Yeah, and I don't know if Mark Williams was gone, and I know you weren't saying that definitively. And maybe he did say that he did say a lot of the players were here in Charlotte. Yep. PJ Washington did a lot of traveling this offseason, but also did a lot of working out. He said earlier today that he went to two-a-days, hired his own personal chef, and I'll allow that us to transition into body muscle watch, all of the different views that we have on the players and how maybe they've been able to transform. Watch. What is it? A chicken wing watch for us? Is that is that what we? Yeah.
I've been doing some push-ups out on the sand. Yeah, it was all over the place. Like Thor's gained a couple of pounds. That's right. Great. Perfect. It seems like all the players that should have lost weight, and all the players that should have gained weight. PJ dropped a couple of LBSs. That's going to help him, obviously.
He looks the most different, but let's get to that in the next segment.
You got a close up look, so you would know. You were sitting right next to him.
Yeah. All right. Coming up next, Locked On Hornets.
Don't go to sleep on the Hornets just yet.
Let's talk a little more about the body transformations, the muscle watch season, all of that good stuff. Plus, we will get to some of their reactions to the Miles Bridges questions they were asked across really all the players. Steve Clifford had some stuff to say about it too. So we'll get to that in just a moment. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your pro and college football betting needs and sports info this season. You can find all the latest football league developments, game matchups, news, and podcasts. BetOnline is also your continued source for all your sport wagering information. That includes live betting, esports, and scores. It's the fastest and the easiest way to check in on all your favorite sports and events. That includes the MLB, MMA, boxing, even golf. And you can head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and the action. BetOnline, where the game starts. More Hornets Media Day conversation coming up next. Locked On Hornets
is Locked On Hornets.
I'm glad we have YouTube now for everybody to see just how bulked you are. Can you give us a gun show flash real quick?
Oh yeah,
me and you, man. Look at that drape.
That's 100% grade A.
Look, here I am doing it. Look at these noodle arms right here. Look, they just flow.
We got it. Listen. Yep.
Yeah.
If you want chicken wings, if you've been starving for some chicken wings, this is the show for you, folks. YouTube.com/chicken wings.
It's time for more of the Locked On Hornets podcast.
All right, I've got the exact quotes from Steve Clifford when he was asked about the center rotation. He said, "We need physicality. We struggled with screening and rebounding. I love our preseason schedule to help gauge ourselves with it. It's going to play out." To me, this is really simple. I don't think you should be scared. Look, if Mark Williams can't beat out Nick Richards, based on what we've seen from Nick Richards historically, then he doesn't deserve to be in the rotation immediately. That's it. That's plain as day for me.
That's fair, but also that means that you're trusting Steve Clifford to play the right guys in that. And I'm not saying you shouldn't, but sometimes, for instance, with James Borrego, right? We talked about this. Sometimes I thought other guys should have been playing, and I didn't agree with his evaluation of the roster. And it's like, wait, why is this guy playing in these types of minutes? But so as long as that reigns true, as long as he actually is going with Nick Richards because Nick Richards has outperformed Mark Williams and he's just being a better basketball player, then fine, we'll roll with Nick Richards as the backup center.
You got to come at me with a player that Steve Clifford buried that turned out to be a way better rotational player, and don't say Malik Monk, because to me that's not the case.
Okay. Well, that conversation comes to an end. Let's get to Malik Monk was a part of Muscle Watch season. Like, he was a Muscle Watch MVP the third year he came in, put on 20 pounds of muscle. I thought I saw it. But I will say PJ Washington had the biggest transformation. Dude got thinner.
Good.
And not nearly as thick, in my opinion. And he even said it, right? He said he lost like 12 pounds. He was like at 240, something like that. He said he's been, now weighing in at 230 because he did hire a chef. He made sure he got his nutrition right. And Doug, we've talked about this so much, but you and I both love it so much. If you just want the right type of mindset from a specific player, point to it and say, that's what I want every player in the world to go through in some of their situation, whatever it may be. The PJ embracing defense on Twitter, where it's funny, like he's actually talking trash and hyping himself up off of how good of a defender he is. It's not any like dunk highlights. It's not him, yamming on people. It's him locking dudes up and tweeting out some of those video montages. Like, that's what you love to see, him actually make sure his nutrition is right. He's so excited, man. Like, that's the thing I got first impression meeting with him today. That guy talking before we went on the air, too. PJ's really excited. Like, man, I'm ready to go. Like, and it seems genuine. That's the kind of stuff that you love to see and hope translates into wins, or at least some individual grown value from him.
I think it's really smart. I mean, he understands the opportunity that's in front of him, and he understands that there's an opportunity when you play defense, because this team doesn't have a lot of people who really focus in on defense. And, oh, by the way, they've just brought in a coach, Steve Clifford, who does love defensive physicality and players that can defend multiple positions. He values that. He plays that. And so, yeah, he's recognizing, hey, this could be a turning point in my career. And Clifford spoke on it as well. I mean, he said, I've been really happy with PJ. He's going to be a big part of this team. If we're going to take a big step, he's going to be on the floor 28 to 30 minutes. He can play both ends, gives you versatility, and defends perimeter players. He's a talented player. And so for PJ to come on your show and tell you that, I am a defender. That's who I am now. He is declaring his identity. And the Hornets, honestly, they need more players to come out and say, this is who I am. This is what I'm about. Clearly define what you are, so that Clifford can play you to those strengths.
And Cody Martin embraces it too. Had a chance to talk with him. Really, what else is cool about Cody Martin? We'll get to the Miles Bridges thing in just a moment, but just kind of going rapid fire a little bit. Just Cody Martin discussing how he wants to do whatever it takes for the team to win. He discussed how he had never shot 3-pointers in his entire basketball life until he came to the Charlotte Hornets. And I didn't play against the Martin twins when they were at Davie County. So Davie County had an AAU team. I was with the Express at the time, and they were a year younger. And everybody would come in and watch them put on a dunk show after we were done playing. So him getting to just dunk on people in high school, because you can handle the ball at 6'9" or 6'7", whatever he is, and then just slam on people. Like, you're not going to shoot all that much. And so he did it at Nevada anyways, to shoot 38% on the season last year. He continues to say, I'm still putting up a ton of shots, but I'm going to do whatever it takes because I understand my role, and my role is to kind of adapt to whatever is asked of me to help the team win.
Yeah, I mean, well, so just kind of zooming out on that Cody Martin take and the PJ take and LaMelo, who revealed that he's working on a few things in his game, finishing at the rim, getting fouled more. Clifford talked about how if he could get 3 free throw attempts or more a game, that's going to be a game changer for him. And I take game changer to mean going from all-star to all-NBA. I think it's all about raising that points per game, honestly, and playing a little bit better defense, which Clifford said LaMelo recognized that as well, that there needs to be a little bump there too. But that's how you go from All-Star to All-NBA. And LaMelo's been working with a rules official to figure some of this stuff out, to get fouled more. I think it's some savvy stuff that's going on. But here's the 30,000-foot view. Everybody seems to have the right mindset. Everybody seems to be focusing on the things that they need to focus on to get this team into a more balanced position. They're already good on offense. They're probably going to be pretty good. Even without Miles Bridges, I think this team is probably pretty good on offense. How do they get to be pretty good on defense? They were very bad on defense. How do they get to pretty good in this next season? Everyone seems to have the right mindset. Do they have enough talent? Probably not. But they have the right mindset, and that's what I gathered from this media day.
Well, let's just go down this road a little bit more and then get to Miles in the third segment, because it's not like the team had a ton of revealing comments on Miles Bridges anyway. It's something that we knew. But as we talk about improving defensively, that's something I did ask Steve Clifford. I think we talked about it on this podcast. Hey, here we are discussing how good he can be offensively, which I love that, by the way. Like, getting LaMelo to the free throw line more and having that 80% come with him, that's going to be huge offensively. And so hopefully he can finish better at the rim, but also just even get to the charity stripe more. Defensively, I asked Steve Clifford how he could become a better defender. That's because that's Steve's calling card. He said just get in better position, on drives, get in better position. But he's got the capability to stay in front of people. But did discuss, hey, he can read the game defensively, and he's excellent at getting steals. And Steve Clifford really values turning the other team over in a way that LaMelo's clearly has demonstrated. If we talk about LaMelo's defensive problems, it has never been that. Like, LaMelo definitely has the ability to go steal the basketball.
It seems like Steve Clifford has the right expectations for where LaMelo can take his game defensively, because I think if Steve Clifford had come in and said, hey, I want to completely transform the way LaMelo plays defense, and I think I can turn him into like a top 10 defensive player, then I'd have been like, what's going on here? What are we doing? Because that's not going to happen. And you need LaMelo to be such a huge part of the offense that to ask him to also be an elite defender would be, I think, would be folly. Like, you just wouldn't get the results, and there would be tension there. What I think I've heard from Clifford and LaMelo is that they seem to be communicating it on the same wavelength. We'll see if that plays out once the games start happening, right? Once LaMelo, if he takes a bunch of chances on D and ends up letting, people blow by him because he went for a steal and it leads to a bunch of paint points, will all of that nice talk and good communication still hold? We have to see if that's going to happen. But at least for now, on Media Day, on day one of this new season, everybody seems to be on the same page about expectations, and everyone seems to have been meeting with everyone, and that's positive. I would have been very frightened if people came in and said, yeah, we're going to figure it out in training camp. I haven't really talked to Coach Cliff yet. We'll get all that stuff figured out. Then I'd be worried. But it seems like everybody's taking advantage of the kind of time crunch that you have when you hire a coach so late in the offseason.
And they're taking advantage of it, but and not because it's the fault of the coach or the players, but the players, even Terry Rozier, when we had a chance to talk with him earlier today, they admit they don't know a ton about Steve Clifford. Like, we asked Terry about
They gon' know very quickly. They gon' know.
They will, and they, as far as when I asked Terry that question, he was worried about getting caught in comparisons between Steve Clifford and JB. I was like, Terry, we're not going to do that to you, man. I'm not trying to ask you to say, hey, James Borrego is some bad dude or whatever. Like, I think that's what he was worried about, having a quote misquoted or something. Mm-hmm. But I just asked him, hey, like, what do you think about Steve Clifford's philosophy? What comes to mind in your conversations that you've had with Steve? And he said, oh yeah, no, like I am ready for the defensive end of the floor to be embraced. He said, I had a chance to talk with Steve, I think in Vegas too, and I think even Steve revealed that. And so, that's something that starts with me. He owned up to that in his media availability. Something that starts with me. I need to be better on that end of the floor, and he needs to, continue to lead by example, and maybe even being more of a vocal leader. Mm-hmm. So that's some of the stuff that Terry talked about.
Well, that's fine. Right. There was a lot of talking, and that's all you can do at Media Day. You can't put the ball on the floor. Yeah. All you can do is talk. You can talk about...
I wanted a basketball. I wanted to put it on the floor, but you can't do it.
Well, see, again, I think you got to take that ball, man. You can't. You're giving up Big Pat's chair. You're not. You got to just grab the basketball and go to the hoop, baby. Go hard to the hole. But here's the thing: like, you can talk all you want to, but we've had 2 straight play-ins now where there was a lot of talking, a lot of yapping, and not a lot of winning. So that I don't. If Terry wants to make a commitment on the defensive end of the floor, I think it's great to say on Media Day. I got to see it in the preseason. I want to see it early. If I come away from the preseason, I'm like, well, I really haven't seen much improvement from LaMelo or Terry on the defensive end of the floor, then I'm going to pretty much assume that that's going to be how it is for the entirety of the regular season. And then I think that puts a pretty big ceiling, or a pretty low ceiling, on what the Hornets can do this season if neither of those players are really going to commit to the defensive end of the floor, or at least commit to the same level that they did last season. So talking, great. I want to see it. A lot of this is show me.
All right, lots of conversation about everybody on this Hornets Media Day. So coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Don't go to sleep on the Hornets just yet.
We're going to talk about Steve Clifford's plan with Gordon Hayward, and we'll give you some of the players and Steve Clifford's reaction to the Miles Bridges situation. That's coming up next on Locked On Hornets.
Is Locked On Hornets.
Walker, sometimes you don't have to have the best package.
Okay.
Sometimes you just have to have the only package. If you wait, or this is if my dating life taught me anything, sometimes you just have to wait around long enough until you're the only thing remaining. And then suddenly you look pretty great in comparison.
It's time for more of the Locked On Hornets podcast.
So Miles Bridges, huge topic of discussion surrounding this team. You don't have your leading scorer from last year. You don't have a guy that was about to get $30 million a year, a max contract, because of the way that he was able to produce on the court and at that age. He's not here because he was charged with felony domestic violence, and they're still trying to figure out exactly, what to do in this situation. That is the Charlotte Hornets, as his case is continued constantly, quite literally. There are now 3 continuances that we've had during that trial process, and they're letting the legal process play out at this point. And it's happened leaking into media day. So asking Steve Clifford, how do you handle this? All Steve Clifford is telling us is that he's going to coach the guys that are here. And then when he says we're trying to form an identity, I ask him how different it is, how hard it is to kind of form that identity without Miles Bridges. And he said, yeah, it is difficult, but all we can do is figure out how to coach these guys that are here the best way possible. Doug, I know you have some of the other comments from players that were asked about Miles, whether it be LaMelo, whether it be PJ or Kelly Oubre.
And by the way, we've already had the Twitter geniuses saying, well, why are we even asking these questions of the players and coaches? Well, hey, genius, this is one of the better players on the Charlotte Hornets, and he's not there available for media day, and it's because of some pretty serious allegations that he's facing.
I'm sorry, I laughed at your introduction. Hey, genius!
I'm just sick of it, man. So yeah, that's why these questions are being asked. They're fair questions, even if you're not going to get a response that's that detailed. It's the responsibility of the media to continue asking these questions until you get that detailed response, until they feel like they can give it.
And by the way, the media knows, man, like who we're asking. Like it's not, what's taking place. Nobody kept at it. Nobody, like, once you got that, you moved on. I asked a couple questions about how you fill that void, is there any pressure that's added on because of what's taking place with Miles Bridges not being here after you really thought he was? And so, anyways, go ahead.
All right, so
hey, genius, go ahead.
Yeah. Hey, geniuses, here's the rundown on what everyone had to say at Media Day. Clifford essentially said what he said to Rod Boone in that interview, the one-on-one interview that he had before Media Day. He said this is a legal situation that's playing out. He can't comment. P.J. Washington was asked about it. He says the team doesn't really talk about the Miles Bridges situation, but that P.J. has reached out to him to see how he was doing. Kelly Oubre said no comment, that it was too personal. Terry Rozier said, quote, just me knowing Miles, I know he's handling this situation the best way that he can, so I'm just sending him my prayers. And then finally, LaMelo Ball, when asked about this, said, quote, I miss him for sure. I've been talking to him day in and day in, just seeing what it is. But other than that, I haven't heard too much. Steve Reed of the AP then asked, how much of a blow would it be if he's not here? To which LaMelo responded, quote, I'm hoping we get him. Not really trying to throw any negative energy, just keeping it positive, unquote.
Yeah, look, we'll keep it real about the players' comments. Some of them you could obviously say, when LaMelo says, I want Miles Bridges back, I hope we get him back. When you hear that kind of comment, it might rub you the wrong way. And I understand that. At the same time, these guys are going to be way too close to Miles Bridges that any opinion they have is going to be biased. And that's just how it is. How it would be if my brother was accused of this, I would really hate it because it's somebody that you grow up with. It's somebody that you've become extremely close to in however long of a capacity that you have grown that relationship with that person. So the person that matters the most here when we ask this question or these questions about Miles Bridges, it's Mitch Kupchak and Michael Jordan Jordan if he'd ever become available for media, which isn't going to take place. So it's really Mitch and Steve to a lesser degree, right? Like we can go down the line of the hierarchy here, but Mitch Kupchak is responsible for personnel decisions, and Mitch Kupchak hasn't taken those questions on Miles Bridges yet. Not at least in this type of forum, media day or whatever. So, anyways, yeah, like we know what it is, and I'm not surprised to hear some of the players say that, given their close relationship to Miles.
Yeah, it's clear to me, not just from Hornets media day, but some other media days where there are some uncomfortable topics, including in Minnesota, where Aaron Gordon is answering, or Denver, where Aaron Gordon is answering questions about his reaction to the Anthony Edwards tweet that he was fined for making homophobic slurs, to Boston, where they're facing a lot of questions about Ime Udoka, who was just suspended for the entire year, to this. And what it reveals to me is that that there is no script that these players are being given by the organization. They're coming out and telling you, either telling you nothing or telling you how they feel. I think probably the safest comment, and probably the comment that all of the players should have gravitated towards, if they didn't want to make headlines, would have been Kelly Oubre saying, "No comment, this is too personal." We don't know how much information, by the way, that these players have about this situation. A few of them mentioned that they've talked to Miles Bridges, but if Miles Bridges has good legal representation, that good legal representation almost certainly is telling him not to speak about this situation with any players or any friends or probably any family, anyone. You just don't talk about these legal situations as they continue on. So I think people assume that these players have talked to Miles and they know all about it and they know what's really going on. But that absolutely might not be the case. And so they're just coming out and saying, maybe possibly truthfully, that, hey, I don't know what's going on. I know I'm friends with Miles Bridges, and that's that. But probably should have just said, yeah, what the frustrating thing. The frustrating thing is saying nothing. But until there are more details out, they probably should have just said nothing.
Yeah, and that's something that I agree with you. Kelly Oubre saying, hey, no comments, too personal right now. You know what? It's probably the best way you can roll with. So Kelly Oubre putting that out there. Go ahead.
Well, I'm with you. I would say that my opinion on LaMelo's comments and Terry's comments specifically, because they did go into it a little bit, is I don't particularly care what they have to say on this situation. I think it's more important because they can't take any action, right? Like LaMelo can't take any action based on what we find out about this situation. Terry can't do anything. It's really up to Mitch Kupchak, the front office, and the ownership of this team and the NBA to decide what the appropriate punishment should be. So I don't really care what they have to say, but I hope in the future, as we get more information, if they do decide in the future to share their comments, I hope that they are thoughtful with those comments.
Yeah, same here.
Because it matters what they say. It does,
It does.
I'm not, It does matter what the best player on your team has to say when another great player on the team is faced with these. It does matter. But if they're going to say something, I think it needs to be a little bit more thoughtful than that's my friend, and I'm sure he's handling this situation the best way that he can. I think it's got to be, if you're going to speak on it, it needs to be a little bit more thoughtful than that.
There are ways to say the right thing here. I don't want to paint a picture that there's no way to say the right thing, even if it might be hard, especially in a situation where you are very close to Miles Bridges. It doesn't matter. There are certainly ways that you can say the right thing, and that's what hopefully we'll hear in the future when these guys are pressed on that a little bit more so. All right, there's still a lot more to get to that we learned from Media Day. Gordon Hayward, there's a new plan for him from Steve Clifford, but we're going to save that for the rest of the week. We're going to leave Doug back to doing the whole family vacay thing. No, I don't want your hot take on Gordon Hayward.
You're gonna get it's a flaming hot plan. Get out of here. Hey, here's a plan. Play Gordon Hayward. Hey, you're paying Gordon Hayward $1 jillion. Play him. That should be the plan. Get out of here, plan.
All right. Why don't what do you got planned for today, Doug? You going out on the beach? You hanging out some more? You got some family card games on the docket? What's up?
Hey man, I might be joining you soon from the studio. This hurricane. I mean, it seems like it might be heading right for us. So I don't know. We might have to be traveling back soon. Who knows?
All right. Well, goodness gracious, be safe.
Everyone out there, be safe. Don't stick around for hurricanes. So it's my final thought is on this media day, if I don't get to speak to you again before the end of the week or ever, my final thought is that
I hated that. Thank you for putting me in that situation.
My final thought is that everyone came into this media day and said the right thing, and that we shouldn't take that for granted, because you can look around at some of these other media days. I'll point out Christian Wood not being on the same page in his new spot in Dallas with whether he's going to start or not. Jason Kidd saying, he's going to be sixth man, and Christian Wood being like, well, it's the first time I've heard of it. So, you can do this badly. You can do this badly.
Plus, we heard this months ago. Remember, we heard that JaVale might actually start months ago. It's not the first you're hearing of it.
I get it. But what I'm saying is you can do this badly. The Hornets did not do this badly, but that's not a guarantee of anything. It just means that you got step one right. But do you have enough talent? And Walker disappeared. So maybe that's a sign to end this episode. Hey, thanks for watching Locked On Hornets. I'm going to send it back to Walker for the rest of the week, but I will be back with you as well. Thanks for tuning in. Go check out Locked On NBA. They are keeping tabs on all of the media day action. Until then, I'm the only one left, so I get to do the sign off. I'll say, go to everyhornetsboxscore.com right now, where I'm going to post my entire notebook. Get the shameless plug in while Walker's not around. And then I'll also say this: go Hornets, go America, let's swarm Charlotte.